Closed session. Just 1 second. Sorry, everybody. There was no action taken this evening in closed session. Next is the adoption of the agenda. May I please have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is adopted as presented. Welcome. We're happy to have you all here this evening, and we look forward to all of the information that's going to be presented and all of the information that we will receive from you all. Our very first item of business is one that we always enjoy doing, and that is going to be our board recognition for our young legislator. I'm going to toss it over to Dr. DeGrazia now, please.
Thank you, Ms. President, members of the board. It is my distinguished honor to present a recognition this evening to a young legislator in the crowd. Her name is Bianca Rodriguez Gonzalez. She is a Glendora High School student. She has served as the role of an intern in Assemblywoman Blanca Rubio's office for the 48th Assembly District. She's demonstrated intake of support and opposition for state legislation in the office database. She's communicated with residents and listened to the concerns of our constituents. She is part of the communications team in the district office, supported social media, posting, and platforms. She shadowed district representatives at local community events and met local elected officials and community holders. In addition, she has attended legislative and community staffing meetings. She has helped organize and set up the Assemblywoman's district events in cities across the 48th district in the past year. She has served as a young leader and a leader for our community and mentor and role model for others to follow in the 48th Assembly District's Young Legislators Program. Flew to Sacramento and met with California state legislators. It's an honor to recognize this evening Ms. Bianca Rodriguez Gonzalez. Join me in recognizing her. We have several groups that would like to present recognition to her this evening. I would like first to bring up the representative from the Assemblywoman Blanca Rubio's office, 48th District, Ms. Alexa Sanchez. Alexa.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. DeGrazia, and everyone in attendance. My name is Alexa Sanchez, and I am a district representative for Assemblywoman Blanca E. Rubio, and I am honored to be here today to recognize Bianca Rodriguez Gonzalez. Bianca is not only an incredible part of the community, but holds a very special place in our district office. She was a student in our 2023 Young Legislator Program and an excellent intern supporting the 48th Assembly District. We are grateful to have Bianca be part of Team Rubio. There is no doubt in our minds that she will continue to accomplish greatness and pursue her dreams. Congratulations, Bianca. On behalf of Assemblywoman Blanca Rubio and her staff, we have a little token of appreciation. So we have this certificate of recognition. And then this bag. I wore this jacket on purpose. This bag. Thank you. She's part of our staff.
Very nice. Thank you, Alexa. Up next, from the Glendora Chamber of Commerce, Joe Cena, and the Glendora Legislative Committee, our chair, Mr. Ryan Otteson.
Oh, Bianca, just come on up. No, nobody really wants to hear what I have to say. Anyways, even though the good doctor was kind enough to give me 15 minutes, settle in. I'm kidding. Did you hear the collective, like, out of both sides right there? That's how you carry a room. Okay. What you did was listed off beautifully, right? But what you're doing is you're following in the footsteps. See, Alexis over here, she's new. She's only been around our chamber for a little bit of time. And so I want to recognize you too for a second, because what you're doing is you're opening the door and you're setting the example for young women to come behind you. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And yes, there's a list of accomplishments, but I think what you did is you made Glendora Unified proud. You made the city of Glendora proud. You made the council members proud. And when we came alive as a chamber when we heard not only did we have Glendora students in the Young Legislator program, but then we got to meet you at one of our meetings. Fantastic. You made yourself proud and you made your family proud tonight. So no matter where your life goes or what you do, know that there will always be noise, right? There will always be opposing sides, but stay true to who you are, because what you really did is you raised your hand and said, you said Hanini, you said send me, I'll go. And so thank you for being somebody who chose to be sent. We appreciate you. On behalf of Josina and the Glendora Chamber, myself and the Legislative Action Committee, great job. Thanks, congratulations. Thank you.
I'll give my fellow board members any opportunity that they might like to say anything at this time, or I'll be happy to
I can say
go.
something. Bianca, I am so proud of you. Thank you for representing us so well, for being an incredible student, a story of overcoming challenges, and not just overcoming them, but just stepping up and, like they said, answering the call to serve your community. So I appreciate that. Thank you for what you stand for, and I know you're going to do big things, and I'm very proud of you.
You represent all that makes us proud as a Glendora Unified and Glendora High School student. Thank you for representing us and your school and your teachers and your peers so admirably. To echo what everybody else has already said, we know that you're going to do great things, and thank you for answering the call of public service that way. We're really proud of you.
Bianca, would you like to introduce your special guests that are here this evening in the front?
Hi everyone. So I would like to thank my grandmother, who's always been supporting me in everything that I do. I would like to thank my uncle, who's always been there for me and helping me with everything, whether it be schoolwork or going to the gym with him. And I would like to thank my mom for being one of the persons that has really pushed me to do better and become a better person. And I would also like to thank everyone in this room, and all the board members and everyone for just being there for me and supporting me with my dreams. Thank you.
And then we need a family.
Yeah, picture.
Go, all right.
Once again, let's congratulate Bianca on her honor.
No, it's okay. One more comment from a board member, please.
Hey Blanca, it's good to see you here tonight, from an old legislator to a young legislator. I wish your peers would pay attention to what you're doing. I've attended a few events with you and Alexa, and the program's fantastic. I hope that you can send it out to the schools, and I'm very proud of what you do, and I look forward for you doing more of that in this community and any other community you live in. So thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on to our student board member report. I'm going to pass it on over to Gwen.
Thank you. So from LaFetra Elementary, our LaFetra Lions have had a great start to the school year. PTA organized a back-to-school picnic lunch for our students. We are currently in the middle of our PTA membership drive, and our classes are in a race for the finish line. During Wellness Week, our school focused on kindness. This week was full of fun activities and lessons, teaching kids about being kind to others and themselves. Chess Club has officially kicked off. Chess is extremely popular here at La Fetra, in so much we have reached our maximum capacity. We are looking to take first place this year in a chess tournament. There has been a huge interest in our school's language program, MEG. Our registration is full, and we are excited for these classes to begin next month. Next month, we are looking forward to our largest PTA fundraiser. Our fall jogathon has always been a fun and successful fundraiser for our school, and we expect great things from this one as well. From Sellers Elementary, Sellers has had a great start to the school year. We hosted an ice cream social on September 7th with an amazing parent-student turnout. On September 11th, our all-school flag salute was a beautiful tribute to the victims of 9/11. The Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts assisted in raising the flag and the Pledge of Allegiance. Our annual walkathon is coming up soon on October 6th. This year's theme is Moonwalk. There are lots of incentives for students to raise money, with the most coveted prize being an opportunity to pie Mrs. Trent in the face. Our Wellness Week was filled with activities that inspired students to make good choices, practice self-care, and spread kindness through our campus. All of our students made a pledge to be well and treat others with kindness and respect. Our chess club will be kicking off soon. We are eager to get this club started and grow those chess masters. From Goddard Middle School, Goddard is finalizing MOCA plans for our MOCA visit from October 27th through November 1st. Host families were notified last week, and host family meetings were held on Tuesday to go over expectations for the visit. Goddard and Sandburg are super excited for the visits and have planned many fun and engaging activities for the adult educators visiting us. Goddard's first student recognition lunch is on October 3rd. Football, volleyball, and cross country have been practicing. Games start this week. We are in the planning stages of our athletic rally, which will take place on October 6th. Wellness Week was full of lunchtime activities, and the campus was decorated with lots of yellow ribbons. The welcome dance was a huge success. The theme was Aloha. Over 400 students attended. Awesome job, ASB and PTA. Web leaders are meeting with their 6th grade buddies Wednesday morning for fun activities. Finally, from Whitcomb, this is a year of transition for Whitcomb. Along with a new principal, Ms. Strabata, we have 2 new adult transition classes and 2 new teachers, Mr. Weirley and Miss Rosa. We also have 3 classrooms that have been recently remodeled that will be used by the adult transition programs. One of the classrooms has been transformed into a beautiful kitchen where the ATP students will learn life skills and make their famous homemade dog treats. Our continuation high school program is focusing on attendance this year, and we have seen an increase of students attending and attending on time. Students will receive recognition for good attendance, including the opportunity to be a Wildcat of the Week and earning off-campus lunch passes. Students will also be recognized at our quarterly recognition brunch for having perfect attendance. We have many exciting events happening on our campus. The Gold Teachers just hosted a Fall Fun Day for their online students to have the opportunity to socialize and do some fun activities together. We completed a very successful Wellness Week, thanks to the support of our PTA. We are planning on celebrating Homecoming and Red Ribbon Week in October. Whitcomb is a place where students come first. That is all. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you very much. Now we come to our staff presentation of the evening. Glendora Unified School District, partnering with parents and families to achieve student success, presented by Dr. DeGrazia, Mrs. Vicar, Mr. Osborne, and Dr. Prince. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. DeGrazia.
Thank you. Good? Okay. Thank you, Board President Reuter, members of the board, distinguished guests. I'd like to thank the board, number one, and the Glendora Unified Community for the opportunity to present the information before you this evening. Thanks also to the work of our administrative team and mental health professionals, many in the room this evening, for sharing their expertise and experience with us as we gathered information to share with you all this evening. With that being said, I wanted to begin with sharing a little background about our philosophy as a district as it relates to the title, Partnering with Parents and Families to Achieve Student Success. You see the first two words are family partnership, and that we consider it as such. It is a key to everything we set out to accomplish, that partnership. We are stronger together. Our goal always is to foster open and direct lines of communication, and lots of it, not only just at the elementary level as students and families start out their journey with us, but all the way through 12th grade, or in some cases, all the way through age 22 with our adult transition program. We encourage and we desire active involvement throughout the entire school year with our parents and our community at each and every site. By working together, especially in difficult or challenging situations, we can reach successful resolutions and in turn produce positive student outcomes and individual growth for each and every child. A case in point. Some of you on the dais may remember this. When I was the principal at Goddard Middle School, just a couple of years ago, way back when, I would onboard and offboard students each day. I would stand at the ramp and I'd welcome students as they came in, and I'd say goodbye or see you tomorrow as they left. But in those opportunities on the ramps, we had opportunities to have conversations directly with students. And oftentimes we're opening the door of their car for their parent to meet and greet them as well and have conversations and connections with them as well to enhance communication. Students also observed that partnership. They were directly there to know that we were on the same team and we were on the same page with one goal of positive intent and focus, with the success of children as our goal and at our forefront. With this philosophy as a lens, you will next hear from our 3 assistant superintendents and me sporadically in between, as they share and we share an overview of the legal framework, policies and procedures and protocols utilized in our work and how they relate to our daily practices and outcomes in schools. Ms. Vakar, our Assistant Superintendent of Business, will start off the conversation about our legal framework and how that looks for us.
Thank you, Dr. DeGrazia. And welcome to our community. Public schools as a government agencies must operate within the boundaries of the law at the federal, state, and local levels. And although the Constitution does not make reference to education, it impacts the operation and management of our schools, particularly with respects to the 1st, 4th, 5th, 8th, and 10th, and 14th Amendments, which protect the individual rights of students and staff. These statutes are the most abundant source of state law affecting the public schools because district policy rules and regulations are based on statutory law and the educational code. School district policy, which is known as board policy and administrative regulation, is generally based on the state statutes, ed code, if consistent with state and federal laws, state and federal constitutions, court rulings. School district policies are considered to be legally enforceable. School board policy, which is the what, represents a basic source of law for school personnel as reflected in the rules and the regulations. Student board policies are legally defensible as long as they do not conflict with the federal and state constitutions. The administrative the administrative regulations and protocols are specific procedures and are sets of instructions designed to carry out the policy. These are known as, this is the how. This is how we go about doing it. And for example, a district may have a school safety board policy. However, the administrative regulation protocol is the how. And this would detail the specific steps or measures staff would complete in order to respond to an emergency or situation on campus. Dr.
Very
DeGrazia?
good, thank you, Ms. Vicar. So the board policies are the what, the administrative regulations are the how it works. The next two slides, this first is on parental rights, and the second slide you'll see after this slide will be on student rights. They're both structured in the same way. We'll discuss the federal law under each area, state law, education code, local policy, those board policies, the what and the how, and the administrative regulations, and then local protocols and practices, procedures as well. The overview of parental rights is categorized into federal, state, local, and protocols and practices. This slide summarizes the main components of parental rights, but is certainly not an exhaustive list. Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, commonly known as FERPA, provides additional rights by preventing the disclosure of personally identifiable information contained in school records. FERPA broadly defines education records and provides exceptions for disclosures without consent, such as sharing with school officials or for legal compliance. Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, this law mandates that public schools provide a free, appropriate public education, FAPE. There will be no test on the acronyms afterwards. I see some of you are worried. In the least restrictive environments for students with disabilities. Under IDEA, parents have the right to be involved in the educational planning for their children with disabilities. This includes the right to participate in meetings, review records, and dispute decisions through a formal complaint process. Title I, Parental Involvement. Title I of the ESEA, Elementary Secondary Education Act, promotes parental involvement in educational planning and decision-making, especially for schools that receive Title I funds to improve academic outcomes for disadvantaged students. The Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment, PPRA, this law deals with parental rights to information about certain types of surveys, evaluations, or activities that students may be asked to complete. Parents must be notified and given the opportunity to opt their child out of participating. For example, parents have the right to opt out their children from the California Healthy Kids Survey or the California Healthy Youth Act instruction. Finally, parental notification laws in this area. Some federal education statutes require schools to notify parents about their rights under these laws or about certain activities or subjects that will be covered in the classroom. For example, parents are notified prior to the California Youth Act instruction, can preview the curriculum, and opt their student out of instruction by providing written notice to the site principal. Mr. Osborne will now review the state law.
At the state level, education sections 11,501 through 11,502 describe the intent of the legislation that schools partner with parents in the education of their children to inform parents that they can directly affect the success of their children's learning and to develop effective communication between the home and school. Education section 51,101 emphasizes the right and responsibilities of parents and guardians. It affirms their entitlement to observe classrooms, meet with staff, volunteer their time, and receive timely information about their child's attendance and standardized test performance. Additionally, they could review curriculum materials, stay informed about their children's academic progress, and access school records. The purpose of this education section is to ensure parents are well informed about school rules, disciplinary procedures, and psychological testing involving their children. Education Code Section 49,061 states that parental consent is required for students to change their name and gender on official school records. Education Section 48,900 and 48,915 states that parental notification is a central part of the disciplinary process. When a student is facing a suspension or an expulsion, the code requires that the parent or guardian of the student be notified. Additionally, parents and guardians often have the right to participate in disciplinary hearings and the appeal process on behalf of their children. Finally, Education Code Section 49,069.7 states that parents have the right to access any and all pupil records related to their children that are mandated by school districts.
Looking at these on our local board policy level, Board Policy 1312.3 talks about the uniform complaint procedure. The board recognizes that the district has the primary responsibility to ensure compliance with applicable state and federal laws and regulations governing education programs. The board encourages early resolution of complaints whenever possible. To resolve complaints, which may require a more formal process, the board adopts the uniform system of complaint processes specified in California Code of Regulations 4600 through 4670 and the accompanying administrative regulations. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5020. The board recognizes the rights and responsibilities of parents and guardians in the education of their children. They believe that education is a shared responsibility and will collaborate with parents or guardians to define their roles in supporting students' development and the well-being of students at each school site, including the means by which the schools and parents and guardians can help students achieve academic and other standards of school. Parents or guardians shall have the opportunity to work with schools in a mutually supportive and respectful partnership and to help their children succeed in school. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5022. The board emphasizes the importance of respecting the privacy rights of students and their parents or guardians, as well as maintaining the confidentiality of their personal information. The superintendent or designee must engage with parents or guardians when establishing regulations related to other uses of personal information. Board Policy 5141 on emergency notification processes. The superintendent or designee shall develop procedures to ensure that first aid and/or medical attention is provided as quickly as possible when student accidents and injuries occur, and that parents or guardians are notified as appropriate. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5141.52 on suicide prevention. The superintendent or designee shall follow up with the parent or guardian and student in a timely manner to provide referrals to appropriate services if needed. If the parent guardian does not access treatment for the student, the superintendent or designee may meet with the parent or guardian to identify barriers to treatment and assist the family in providing follow-up care for the student. If follow-up care is still not provided, the superintendent or designee shall consider whether he or she is required, pursuant to law for mandated reporters, to refer the matter to local child protection service agencies. This information is also located in the GUSD Student and Parent Handbook on page 68. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5145.3. The board prohibits at any district, school, or school activity unlawful discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and bullying of any student, and this specifically mentions specific protected classes. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6020. The board recognizes that parents and guardians are their children's first and most influential teachers, and that sustained parent involvement in the education of their children contributes greatly to student achievement and a positive school environment. The superintendent or designee shall consult with staff and parents or guardians in the development of meaningful opportunities for parents and guardians to be involved in district and school activities at all grade levels. Advisory, decision-making, and advocacy roles and activities support learning at home. Parents or guardians shall be notified of their rights to be informed about and to participate in their children's education and of the opportunities available to them to do so. In looking at protocols and practices, Student and Parent Handbook, page 62, reiterates the rights and responsibilities of parents and guardians mentioned previously in Education Code 51101. It affirms their entitlement to observe classrooms, meet with staff, volunteer their time, and receive timely information about their child's attendance and standardized test performances. Additionally, they can review curriculum materials, stay informed about their child's academic process, and access school records. The purpose of this education code section is to ensure parents are well informed about school rules, disciplinary procedures, and psychological testing involving their children. As mentioned in IDEA, the district practice and protocol for all students supports meetings such as IEPs, Individualized Education Plans, or ISTs, our Intervention Support Team meetings, and other services to involve parents as a valued and important member of the team. An example of a procedure or protocol related to parents' rights is regarding the risk assessment and mental health referral protocol when a student is assessed. Mr. Osborne will go into detail on this shortly. However, it's always a goal and our practice and that of our counseling team to involve the parent or guardian in this process, to contact them as soon as possible, and to partner with them in the process of supporting their students.
Thank you, Dr. Prince. Now moving on to student rights in the same four categories: federal law, state law, local policy, and protocol and practice. First, federal law. Title IX, part of the Education Amendments of 1972. Title IX prohibits sex-based discrimination in federally funded educational programs and activities. Federal Title IX prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex by public educational institutions, and therefore schools cannot exclude, deny, or treat someone differently based on their sex. The United States Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights has interpreted sex as a protected class to include gender and gender identity and expression. FERPA, relatedly, as you'd seen it in the previous slide under parental rights, as previously mentioned, the privacy of a student's information is also the right of the student. State law, Mr. Osborne.
State law. Under California Education Code 200, equal rights and opportunities in the educational institutions of the state are afforded to all persons in public schools, regardless of their disability, gender, gender identity, gender expression, nationality, race or ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or any other characteristic that is contained to be defined under hate crimes of Section 422.55 of the Penal Code. Assembly Bill 1266 and Education Code 234.1 B1 and Education Code 221.5 F allow a student to participate in sex-segregated school programs and activities, including athletic teams and use facilities consistent with their gender identity, regardless of their gender listed on official school records. Education Code Section 49,600 states that any information of a personal nature disclosed by a pupil 12 years of age or older in the process of receiving counseling from a school counselor as specified under Section 49,600 is confidential. At the local level, Glendora Unified School District Board Policy 0410 addresses this. In addition, Assembly Bill 2246 and Ed Code Section 215 requires districts with grades 7 through 12 to adopt policies and may partner with school-employed mental health professionals, community stakeholders, and suicide prevention experts for the prevention of student suicide by requiring districts to address prevention, intervention, and post-intervention.
Taking that to a local policy level, we start with Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5131.2. In compliance with Education Code 200 to 262.4, the governing board recognizes the harmful effects on bullying on student well-being, student learning, and school attendance, and desires to provide safe school environments that protect students from physical and emotional harm. No student or group of students shall, through physical, written, verbal, visual, or other means, harass, sexually harass, threaten, intimidate, cyberbully, cause bodily injury to, or commit hate violence against any student or school personnel, or retaliate against them for filing a complaint or participating in the complaint resolution process. This information is also provided on page 63 of the Student and Parent Handbook. Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5141.52 As previously mentioned in the Parent Rights Overview and State Law section of the Students' Rights, Board Policy 5141.52 regarding suicide prevention addresses Assembly Bill 2246 and Education Code 215 and supports students in accessing necessary services and supports for suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention. This information is also located in the GUSD Student and Parent Handbook on page 68. Board Policy 0410, as previously mentioned, in compliance with Assembly Bill 1266 and Education Code 234.1 and 221.5, the governing board is committed to providing equal opportunity for all individuals in district programs and activities. District programs, activities, and practices shall be free from unlawful discrimination, including discrimination against an individual or group based on race, color, ancestry, nationality, national origin, immigration status, ethnic group identification, ethnicity, age, religion, marital status, pregnancy, parental status, disability, sex, sexual orientation, gender, gender identity or expression, or genetic information, a perception of one or more of such characteristics or association with a person or group with one or more of these actual or perceived characteristics. Furthermore, the Glendora Unified School District prohibits discrimination, intimidation, harassment, including sexual harassment or bullying, based on a person's actual or perceived characteristics. This board policy also states the notification of this policy will be provided annually through sources such as our student and parent handbook. Looking at protocols and practices, our student and parent handbook you've heard mentioned repeatedly. Rights are also communicated in the student and parent handbook. For example, on page 62, relates the GUSD policy related to AB 1266 and Education Code 234 and 234.1, as well as Board Policy 0410 and 5131.2, which reads, the Glendora Unified School District is committed to maintaining a learning environment that is free from discrimination, harassment, violence, intimidation, and bullying based on actual perceived characteristics set forth in Section 422.55 of the Penal Code and Education Code 220, and disability, gender, gender identity, gender expression, nationality, etc. All school personnel who witness an act of discrimination, harassment, intimidation, or bullying must take immediate steps to intervene when safe to do so. Any student who engages in acts of discrimination, harassment, violence, intimidation, or bullying relating to school activities or school attendance occurring within a school of the school district may be subject to disciplinary action up to and including expulsion. To report an incident or to receive a copy of the district's anti-discrimination, anti-harassment, anti-intimidation, and anti-bullying policies, you would contact your site administrator. Page 63 of the handbook also specifically addresses school safety, bullying, and reiterates the specifics of the bullying policies and provides links for further information.
That's a lot. So what does this look like in practice? When a staff member identifies or a student seeks support from a staff member for a mental health crisis, we initiate a threat or a risk assessment protocol utilizing at least 2 formally trained and licensed or credentialed staff members. If an immediate danger to self or others is identified, staff contact the psychiatric mobile response team or the mental evaluation team for immediate response to determine whether the student needs to be placed on a psychiatric hold. Concurrently, parents will be contacted to inform them of the situation and seek their assistance. Sometimes, the police are called, but only in emergency situations when the parents and/or the MET team are unavailable and there is an immediate threat to self or others. In non-emergency situations, a similar process occurs. But instead of a threat or risk assessment, the parent is informed and consent for supportive services is requested. It is then up to the parent to accept or decline counseling services from the district. Our staff's goal is to be exceptionally transparent, help facilitate open lines of communication between parents and their students, to support the students through the really hard times of life, and to be responsive to the needs of both our students and their families. Here's some data. Based on data that was collected last school year, during the 22-23 school year, our staff completed 444 mental health referrals. Each one of these referrals has had to have parental consent if the student is under the age of 18 in order to initiate school-based mental health counseling. Over the course of last year, 106 risk or threat assessments were completed. As detailed on the previous slide, this process always includes at least 2 trained and licensed or credentialed staff members that follow a standard procedure to determine the level of risk. Appropriate actions based on the risk level are initiated, which includes parental notification. Throughout last year, direct parent outreach contacts by counseling and student support specialists was 1,809. These contacts could best be generalized as outreach from counseling support staff in the areas of academics, mental health, low-level conflict, or student behavior.
One of the main areas that our counseling and student support specialists use is our wellness rooms, and you can see a few images here. Our elementary and middle school wellness rooms are activity-based and include activities such as group origami, puzzles, kinetic sand, and drawing. It is a very social, safe place with soft music. This is a non-therapeutic in nature and focuses on group activities and friendship building. It is only open at lunch. The reasons elementary and middle school students visit are mainly due to the activities and calm yet social environment. It's a safe place to talk with friends or to do a quiet individual or group activity. The high school wellness rooms are intentionally designed to make it a non-social space. The focus is on preventative strategies, promoting self-regulation and coping skills. Students are typically in the wellness room for 15 to 20 minutes and spend most of their time alone or speaking briefly with our staff. This is also a non-therapeutic setting. Reasons high school students typically visit the wellness room include time to regulate emotions, seek support from anxiety or sadness, and take a quick break from the rigor of the classroom. Last year, counseling staff tracked a total of 20,404 wellness room visits. Here are a few pictures taken last week of students in our wellness rooms. Elementary and middle schools can be generalized by being safe social areas for kids to connect with one another and engage in activities as seen in the pictures during lunch or recess. High school wellness rooms, again, are intentionally designed to not be social, but to provide students with space to self-regulate in order to return to class. As we look at feedback from a meeting Mr. Osborne and I held with a team of our counseling and student support specialists, according to conversations with these members of our team, the 4 most common themes for student visits, in no particular order, are listed on this slide. One of the themes is anxiety and depression. Students who seek support for anxiety and depression work with our counselors or student support specialists to get tools, strategies, and coping skills as students deal with these issues. Another theme is student behavior. Students who see our counselors or student support specialists for behavioral concerns, these are often stemmed from things they have seen on YouTube, TikTok, or other online media. These are also things that happen in the evenings or on weekends, but they're feeling the stress at school, and it's having an impact on their learning or social emotional well-being. Another reason within this theme is friendship struggles and the subsequent anxieties. And again, this theme is, an issue in this theme is student interaction with peers and or staff in a respectful way. Students are supported in reflecting and coaching to promote more positive and productive behavior choices in the future. Another theme is social skills. In our elementary students, our students visit our counselors or student support specialists tend to need social skill support with playground and friendship behaviors. They struggle with things like taking turns, problem solving, treating their peers with respect, and navigating friendships. In secondary sites, this tends to be a lot more of social media strugglers. Most commonly, these are happening outside school and on weekends, but they can impact student relationships at school. And another theme was academic skills. Our counselors tend to support students on strategies to organize themselves and their workload. They also help and direct them to many available resources on our various campuses, like teacher help, homework club, tutorials, and online tutoring as appropriate. Regardless of the theme, one of the major outcomes we had from this meeting was whenever working with a student, our counseling and student support specialist team follows up with parents or guardians as appropriate to ensure a partnership and wraparound support for our students. This team understands and absolutely values the partnership and knows how important it is for a student to have support in all of their environments and the benefit of a partnership with home and school.
I'm eager to share with you our unwavering commitment to fostering a supportive and nurturing environment for all students within the Glendora Unified School District. We passionately believe in addressing the needs of our student body to ensure their academic success. Relationships are the bedrock of a thriving educational community. In Glendora Unified School District, we prioritize building strong, meaningful connections with our students. The dedication, care, and concern exhibited by our staff members underscore the importance we place on relationships and creating a learning environment and atmosphere where every student feels known and valued. Our classified and teaching staff go above and beyond to forge professional relationships, working diligently to understand and cater to the unique needs of each student. We are proud to witness the growth and development facilitated through these connections and contributing to a positive learning environment. Furthermore, our team of administrators, many who are here tonight, and our mental health professionals, including our Director of Student and Family Support Services, our mental health coordinator, site counselors, and student support specialists work tirelessly to meet students and their families where they are. We recognize that each family is unique, and we strive to provide tailored support to both academic and social-emotional domains. We are thankful for our contracted service providers that with parental consent can provide students a robust and individual or group therapy to address a variety of concerns, such as loss of a parent or sibling. Our entire staff are committed to ensuring that every student has access to resources and the support they need to flourish academically, socially, and emotionally. We believe by addressing the varied needs of our students that we are building a foundation for their future success.
Thank you, Ms. Vicar. And our final slide shows that we want to continue to enhance our partnership by tapping into our Glendora Unified parents and our families and have a Glendora focus, that we are tapping and seeking to enhance our communication practices and capturing the authentic voice of our parents. Ways we are looking to expand upon that this year include, but are not limited to, our Parent Advisory Committee group meetings. We are researching a software-based that is titled Let's Talk, a way to streamline communication and be responsive to parent needs for a click away and direct connect to the topic. School site connections, thinking back to the ramp at middle school many years ago, thinking currently to Dr. Akveridian's parents as partners policy that, or information recognition opportunity that he has just shared with his parents at Goddard this year. We're all about making the best of our partnership and being cutting edge, but not this at the sake of being bleeding edge. We are cognizant of our funding and our fiscal standing with districts and statewide that we do need to be concerned about going forward. It is our charge, though. It is our charge to have ongoing assessment and growth to meet the needs of our community, our parents, and our students. And with that, that summarizes and wraps up our presentation this evening, and we open it up to questions from the board.
I'm gonna actually see, Gwen, do you have any questions you might like to ask about this presentation?
No.
Okay, that's totally fine. But before we get deep into this conversation, I wanted to make sure I gave you the opportunity. If you change your mind, just wave at me, okay? All right. Okay.
Remember, Gwen, no quiz or test on the
No,
acronyms. We're
no,
good. We're good.
No, but the student voice is very important to us. So should something, as we're having this conversation come up, feel free to just raise your hand and we'll get right over to you. I'm gonna start down at this end and see from Mrs. Markley.
I had a feeling you might do that. I just wanted to know, Dr. Prince, you were saying that the counselors work with the students to bring the parents into the loop as soon as possible. I just wanted to reiterate that, just to make sure.
Yes. So, of course, they coach, they facilitate, but it's something I've seen in person as, principal on sites, but it's also something our counselors reiterated, that they're continually talking with the students. How can they bring in their families, whether role playing or even if it's something where they must report would you like to be in the room when I call your parents? Would you like to sit with another counselor while I'm calling your parents? Would you like me in the room while you call your parents? Really working with ensuring that our kids have support from all angles and our parents are partners in the process.
And what if the student is adamant that their parents not be involved?
The coaching continues. You continue working on that. You continue, do you want to role play? Do you want to practice talking to me? There are some situations where it's absolutely mandated if there is a danger to self or others, and they will call, and our counselors and our student support specialists say that right when they come in the room. Many of them actually have framed signs saying, if you tell me one of these things, I must report it. And then again, they make them part of the conversation. Do you want to be in the room? Do you want to initiate the call? Or would you rather me make this while you wait with another counselor? But making sure the kids feel as empowered as they can, but that the parents are always a partner.
Is there a timeline?
No, there is not currently a timeline. It's hard to say. Some students might be receptive on day one. Some might take more time. If it is something that's mandated, yes, the timeline is immediate.
Right.
Yeah, if there is a danger to self or others, it is an immediate notification.
Okay. Have you noticed more of the mental health issues since COVID, with all of the students be at home?
That wasn't specifically addressed. From a bird's eye view, hypothetically, yes. I've seen more of it from my perspective. That's not to say our counselors wouldn't say, no, it's the same, but I feel like overarching, we have seen more, especially in anxiety-related type things.
And I know we talk about teaching, reading, writing, and arithmetic, but how can we focus on academics if the students are having emotional or mental issues? Does it work that way?
So this is one where I will say, from personal experience, I'll share with you as a mom instead of an administrator on this one. My daughter struggled a great deal when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, and she has always been a straight A, amazing student. But there were times when those emotions were overwhelming, and she had to go see her counselor at school. She had 15 minutes where they worked with her on breathing exercises. She got herself regulated again, and she went right back into that classroom, and she was able to learn for the other 40 minutes. So they got 40 minutes instead of 55 out of her, but they got 40 minutes they probably wouldn't have gotten had she not had the support she needed to stop thinking about dad and start thinking about school again.
Thank you. Also, I just wanted to know, Dr. DeGrazia, I don't know if you remember this, but when Kimmy, she's my middle daughter, was at Goddard, she had a hard time. Change is not her thing. And she came home from the first day of school and kind of slid down the wall. Mom, don't make me go back. Homeschool me. I knew that one of us would die if I attempted to homeschool her because we're both very stubborn. So anyway, I was on campus, of course, PTA or whatever, and Dr. DeGrazia, Mr. DeGrazia at the time, came and he says, how's Kimmy? Oh, she's not doing well. And he went and checked on her, and it made me as a mom feel good. And she ended up loving Goddard. She just needed time. And it was one of my good mom moments. I said, you know, Kimmy, let's give it a month, and then if you don't like it, then I'll homeschool you, please. Anyway, so she did. She graduated. She has a degree. She's doing well. But anyway, thank you for that. I'm done.
Dr. DeGrazia, staff, thank you so much for that presentation. It seems like we're doing a good job currently with what we have. I have no further questions about the presentation. I'll wait to hear public comment, and then I'll have a few things to say, I am sure.
Thank you all very much for all of the time and effort that you put into this thorough presentation. I was wondering, specifically on the slides that relate to the parental rights and the student rights, with all the federal law, the state law, local policy, protocol, and can we have your script put into the presentation online that gave a little bit more of a description of what those individual bullet points were? As much as I'd like to think that everybody has a photographic memory in this room. So if we could, just that section in particular, I'd request that we post that along with the presentation on the board website as soon as we get that.
We can do that for sure. Yeah, it's ton of
Okay.
ton of detail, ton
A
of
lot
information.
of information that people might like to refer back to that way. That's all I have for right now, but I reserve the right to come back.
Okay. First and foremost, thank you all again for all of the time that you put into this presentation, the research, that getting all the information together. I think it was extremely important that our community understand that we do have existing policies in place that both protect our parental rights and our student rights. So I love that you presented that very clearly. I would, as Elizabeth said, like to see that on the website, easily accessible to our parents so that they can, refer to it as needed. I do have some questions about the presentation. Can you tell me, I know you said you had a meeting with our student support specialists and counselors, but did we in any way reach out to our teachers to find out where they stand on this, and how, do they have enough training to deal with some of these things? Or is it just, I'm just gonna refer you straight to, a counselor or a student support specialist? How much does the teacher actually play a role in dealing with these crises, as you named them, with the student? Is that clear?
Yeah, I think with teachers, it's probably more anecdotal. Over the last few months, we go to different sites, we run into teachers from around the district, and we've had conversations with them. We've had conversations with people that are in the room. We've had conversations with administrators. And so not just to say that it was all gathered just from the student support specialists and counseling point of view, but certainly they are the mental health professionals, the experts in the field that were detailed on those few slides in regards to that. But overall, for the parental rights and student rights portions, that's putting a synthesis of current board policies, administrative regulations, and federal and state law, and then our policies, practices, and procedures that we currently use that are in effect. But as far as the script, script procedure of a mental health service, yes, that's through counselors or student support specialists. Mr. Osborne or Dr. Prince, if you have anything else to add.
At any point, are our teachers being asked to keep secrets from our parents? Is that something that we've instructed our teachers to do?
No.
Thank you. I know it sounds like a outlandish question, but I feel like I receive a lot of emails from community members, and that is one of the resounding messages that I get. So I want to make sure that we were clear that that is not something that we are asking our teachers to do, to keep secrets. So thank you for clarifying that. Let's see. Do we have training for our teachers? Because I understand that our counselors and our student support specialists receive additional training or specific training to address these crises. But do our teachers receive any type of professional development that, since it's becoming more common where our kids are struggling with anxiety or depression, or may come to their teacher because that's who they spend a lot of time with. They may feel more comfortable sharing with a teacher than running straight to a counselor or a student support specialist. So are our teachers receiving any type of training that'll help them kind of decide, this is something I can answer a quick question and give a quick tool? Or, you know what, no, I need to refer this to, student support specialist or a counselor.
One of our most popular trainings, it seems, at every professional development that we have in the district is from a board-certified behavioral analyst, and her name is Kathy Holloman. She's well-received, she's highly regarded in the field, and she is able to give our teachers, our instructional assistants, tips and tricks related to mental health and things to look out for so that they can share information if the person needs further assistance or mental health support, so the student support specialists and counselors can do their jobs.
Last question, I promise, for now. Currently, do we have a procedure where if a student comes to a teacher, and I think you kind of mentioned it in one of the slides, but if a student comes to a teacher and presents with some type of problem that they need help with, do the teachers have something that they know, like here's a paper that, okay, this is this, therefore I do that, like a process of what they are expected to do?
I don't know if there's particularly a written process for it, but it is very well communicated that if a student communicates something with the teacher knows they are in need of support, they immediately take it to the counselors or the student support specialists. And our teachers have strong ties with our counselors and student support specialists and rely heavily on them. I would venture sometimes our counselors become counselors to our teachers as well as our students.
So we are not putting this responsibility on our teachers to counsel and, advise our students in these mental health crises or anything of that sort.
No, our teachers build connections. That's our passion. We communicate that on a regular basis on every angle, building connections with students. They're that first line, building those relationships. But when it comes to needing support, that's the job of our counselors and student support specialists, not our teachers.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions about the presentation, but very well done and appreciate it. And we know there's a lot of support for our families, right? We have to work with our families. We want to work with our families. And I feel like I say the same thing every time we have a board meeting. And we've been talking about this, but that's okay. Growing up through Glendora Unified as a teacher, well, going back to being a student, being a teacher, being a counselor, being a coach, being an athletic director, being a dean of students, an assistant principal, ultimately the principal of Glendora High School for 10 years. I can tell you that the work is done, and it's heavy work. And from a teacher perspective, never expected the teachers to do any kind of therapy or do any kind of counseling with students. It always went to the counselor. We're going to get that student in the hands of somebody who can work with the student, but also work with the family. Always, 100% of the time. And I can't tell you how many times, as a principal, I walk down the counseling hall and doors are closed and shades are drawn, and our counselor is working with a student that's in crisis. And, and they always, 100% of the time, would reach out to parents. And so I think we have a lot of things in place, and it's all good. I think our people are very professional and they do a great job with our kids. Relationships, connections to the school, connections to the classroom. That's what we do. Okay, that's our job, and we build those relationships so kids trust us. And when kids trust us, sometimes they do tell us things, and then we get them in the right space. But we also make sure that we get the parents involved. So That's what education's about. You know, everybody, we talk a lot about the academic piece. The academic piece cannot be done without the relationship piece. It can't be done without the connection piece. It cannot. Okay? And I've been at like it was Glendora. It was in Glendora for 30 years, and I'm in another district now for the last 3 years. Cannot. And kids understand that. And every visit that we make, and I know the Glendora administrators go into all the English classrooms and they talk about whatever the rules and expectations. We do the same thing. The other thing that's talked about, and the other thing that has to happen, is kids have to be supportive for kids. Sometimes just a friend can help them work through something, but they will also get them to the right person that will help them. And again, in the end, what are we trying to do? We're trying to work with the family to support that student so that they're safe. They're in that safe space. So I'll just leave it there, and I reserve my right to speak later, too.
Good. You know what, I do have one follow-up question. You mentioned on one of the slides about the appropriate credentialing that either our staff has, our Director of Student Support Services, our mental health coordinator, the appropriate degrees and training and professional development they have. But we also, as a board, have approved a lot of outside resources, especially over the last few years. And without putting you on the spot too much, if we have a situation where a student, where a counselor may have been working with a student for a really long time, and the coaching and the practicing and all of that, and we're maybe not able to get where we're trying to go, can you just remind all of us what outside resources that sort of we have to take things to the next level as far as student support is concerned?
So we have Hazel Health right now, where we can refer, and that is telehealth, so telehealth appointments, and that is with parent consent. And although it can be done during the school day, we really try to get those outside of the school day, where they're remoting in from home. We also have Care Solace that we've contracted through as we switch over to Hazel Health. But we do contract with other support providers when it goes beyond the level that we can support. And when we do that, it's in collaboration. The parents consent to allow those services. Sometimes it's wraparound services where they go into the home and support families at home in supporting their students. It all depends on the particular need. But yes, we do have a lot, and I'm sure Mr. Osborne can add quite a few there.
Well, Dr. Prince was spot on with our contracted services, but I think it's important that the community and the board knows that our primary resource is the parents. And when a student is identified to need mental health services, professional mental health services, yes, we have some providers here, but really our parents are the primary source of that. And it's really our staff's guide. It's our staff to guide the parents and to provide them resources. So for example, Care Solace does not provide counseling. Care Solace vets counselors outside and connects parents to vetted counselors so that they can receive the counseling service outside through insurance. Hazel Health is open to any student, but that's really for families that might not have certain insurance policies that could offer it through their insurance policy. We have that contingency plan, so I think that's important to note.
Does anybody have any additional questions that might have come up? All right, then I will again thank staff for all of the time that they took, many hours going through especially all of the federal, state, board policy, ed code, all of that information to really clearly lay out what is in place currently. All right, we are going to move along to the next item on the agenda. Statement of the board president. We're looking forward to your public comment that's coming up next. I think I've got, I don't know, roughly, I didn't count, let's say 20 or so speakers cards here. I'll remind everybody to be respectful of each other. You'll have 3 minutes that is shown up on this clock over here, behind this TV or under this TV here. And I ask you that when that bell rings, when that beeper beeps, that you finish your statement then, so we can move right on to the next person. I'm going to call someone, and then I'm going to tell you all who is coming up behind them, so that person can be ready to go. We've had really nice civil public comments for the last, as far back as I can remember. But I do want to manage expectations, or rather set expectations. When Mr. Clifford, Dr. DeGrazia, and I all met earlier this week, should things get out of order, should we not be respectful of each other's comments, I'm going to ask everyone to leave the room, and I'm going to give you 10 minutes to cool down, everybody, not whoever is making the disruption, but I'm going to clear the room. And after 10 minutes, I'll invite you to come back in. And if it happens again, I'm going to ask you all to leave, and you can watch the remainder of the meeting from the live stream from the comfort of your home. We've had very civil meetings. I don't anticipate this being a problem, but as this is a school district, we tell our kids what we expect of them when they walk into the classroom, so that's my expectations here tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first speaker card is Kelly Caparasso, maybe, I'm sorry. And then Dr. Marianne Cintron.
Thank you. You came very close.
Can you, what is your last name, please?
Caparasso.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for listening to us. That was a beautiful, well thought out, very detailed presentation. Bravo. I just want to thank you all for bringing this parent right policy to the table. It is a very simple policy, telling parents the truth about what's going on with their students in the classroom, whether they're identifying as something other than their name, their biology. It's something parents need to know. If they are walking into a boys' bathroom and biologically they're a girl, that can set up for a dangerous situation, and parents need to know that. The idea that there is an epidemic or problem that parents are going to harm their own children because they identify for something different than what they were born as, it's kind of been conflated. It's not as big, nearly as big as what is being stated in social media today, in mainstream media today. Parents love their children, they support their children. Supreme Court backs that up, Constitution backs that up, God backs that up. We're here to love our children, we're here to support our children, and we need to know what's going on with them, whether it's in the classroom, because if they're saying in a classroom that they want to be called something different, that's a public knowledge. There shouldn't be a problem with telling us what that is. You guys talked wonderfully and spoke wonderfully about collaborating with parents. This should be a very, very easy fit for this board. I grew up in Glendora. This is an amazing community. My kid went to school here. My parents went to school here. You guys are doing a great job. I thank you for bringing this to the table, and thank you for everything.
Dr. Marianne Cintron, and then Brianna Robles.
Good evening, Dr. DeGrazia and President Reuter and other board members. That was an amazing presentation. I almost feel like the parent going to an IEP not understanding what I was told and what kind of help my child's going to get, because how you presented all this is exactly why I was a teacher in Glendora. I taught in 2001 when we had 9/11 with Dr. DeGrazia, and we had to go to the teacher's lounge to find out what happened on 9/11. And we were told, go back to the classroom, keep your kids calm, and all we could think about were our own kids. How were our own kids doing? I'm just so proud that you guys have all pulled together, and there's so much being talked about the communication, but I feel over half of the people here tonight are the eyes and ears of what you're not being aware of. And while you talk about parent communication and taking care of our kids, we're not seeing that because we're seeing the state send all these assembly bills and Senate bills, and it breaks my heart. This morning, I went to the DMV really early, and I passed by the schools, and my heart was so grieved because I used to be sad about why kids weren't reading and learning math, because I'm a dyslexia specialist. And then I was recalling when the schools were empty. And this morning when I drove out to the DMV, I was thinking how many of these kids are not getting the protection from their schools because the parents are not being informed if they're making decisions that the parents don't want to know. So in just a minute, I'm just going to read some of the Senate bills and some of the Assembly bills, which I think are really important, and they're on the Glendora Stands app. But Senate Bill 596 silences parents' free speech. Assembly Bill 665 approves state-sanctioned kidnapping of kids over 11 years old. How they frame it is a euphemism, but that's what it really is. Assembly Bill 223, hiding legal documents on gender transitions. AB 659 recommends HPV vaccines for all before the ages of 8th grade or before this going to state university. Assembly Bill 5 forces the teachers to profile parents, and my notes are totally different from what I'm speaking differently, but I want to share. AB 5 forces the teachers to undergo indoctrination on transgenderism, and the bill calls for teachers to lie to parents while instructing teachers to seek out LGBTQ kids and profile their parents to determine if their parents are affirming or not. Thank you for letting me speak. There's so many assembly bills, it spins my head, and for such a time as this, listen to the voices of the eyes and ears God is bringing to you. Thank you.
Okay, I've got Brianna and then William Cintron.
Hi, my name is Brianna, or Bree. You guys met me already. To reintroduce myself, I am a queer non-binary member of this community. I attended Glendora schools for middle and high school, and I have a master's degree in education. And first of all, I want to thank the administrator team that put together that presentation. As somebody who attended GHS in Sandburg, when I was at that age, all of the resources that you guys have put together for those students are something that I really could have used. So it means a lot for me to come back. You know, I graduated high school 2010, to see that you guys have made so much improvement in attending to student wellness and mental health. Even the wellness room would have made a huge difference to me as a kid, so I appreciate that. Anyway, I had a speech prepared, but what I want to do instead is make sure that everybody in this room is on the same page, which is that being trans is not a mental illness. Being non-binary is not a mental illness. Being gender non-conforming is not a mental illness. It is not a behavioral issue. It is not a crisis. It is not a social contagion. It is just one of the many diverse ways that a human can experience life. So when I see these bills and when I hear people talking and conflating, just having an identity that is unique to a mental health issue, to the clear and present danger to the self or to others, such as being suicidal, that concerns me. Because historically, we have seen that people like me were put into insane asylums. We were lobotomized. We were forcibly sterilized because our identities and our personhood was seen as a mental illness, and we were seen as a danger to ourselves and to others. So when I see the forced outing bills that have been pushed forward in front of various school boards, conflating being queer with being mentally ill, that concerns me, because it says that they want to roll back the clock to a time where kids like me, where people like me did not have the same rights to just exist as themselves, where we were treated as unhinged, insane, unwell, a danger, just for who we are. So I really want the board to keep this in mind. When you see these groups try to sneak in this anti-trans discrimination, because that is what this is, disguising it as, we want parents to know about mental health issues. Being trans is not a mental health issue. What causes mental health issues is transphobia, bullying, discrimination, but being trans itself is not a concern. It's just a beautiful aspect of the human experience that should be accepted like any other form of the human experience in the classroom, and it is discriminatory to treat it as different, to treat it as a mental illness when we know that it is not. So I hope you guys keep that in mind when it comes to the forced outing policies being proposed. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
William Cintron, and then Spencer Wainwright.
Good evening, Dr. DeGracia, Board President Reuter, band of the Board of Trustees, and the staff. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. On Thursday, September 14th, the federal judge, Roger Benitez, issued a preliminary injunction prohibiting the enforcement of the Encinitas Union Schools District's policy of keeping secrets from the parents. Along with this preliminary injunction, Benitez also denied motions to dismiss this lawsuit made by the school district and the California Department of Education. More significantly, Benitez argued that the district's secrecy policy is as foreign to federal constitutional statutory law as it is medically unwise. It is important to note that this Escondido Union secrecy policy was based on the FAQ that purportedly explained AB 1266. This FAQ was posted on the California Department of Education website and was designed to advise and guide school districts throughout California. It is our understanding that the Glendora Unified School District has also been guided by this same misleading FAQ. As has been noted before, an FAQ is not law. Benitez continued the federal policy is a trifecta of harm. It harms the child who needs parental guidance and possibly mental health intervention to determine if the incongruence is organic or whether it is the result of bullying, peer pressure, or a fleeting impulse. Benitez wrote in his ruling, it harms the parents by depriving them of the long-recognized 14th Amendment right to care, guide, and make health care decisions for their children. And finally, it harms plaintiffs, teachers who are compelled to violate the parents' rights by forcing them to conceal information they feel is critical for the welfare of their students, violating plaintiffs' religious beliefs, he added. Given the injunction, it is highly likely that the plaintiffs will win this lawsuit and that the Escondido Union School District and the AG, Banta, will lose this case. This will be a clear victory against the overreach of the California Department of Education. It also bodes well for AG Banta losing his lawsuit against Cheeto Valley School District. Thank you.
Spencer Wainwright, and then Teresa Wainwright.
Good evening. My name is Spencer Wainwright. My family has been a part of the Glendora Unified Community for a little more than 6 years now. My children attend Goddard Middle School. My son is transgendered. He was out to his community at school before he came out to us at home. In the midst of an internal struggle, he chose to first ask people at school to call him by a different name. This took courage. Courage beyond the capabilities of many of us here tonight. A couple of weeks later, he talked to us, his family, the people who matter the most to him. He did this on his own schedule, which was determined by what he felt comfortable with. Forcing children to rush this process will only have bad outcomes for the child, the family, and for the community. I'd like to thank the district staff for their excellent presentation on all of the ways that Glendora Unified already protects its students. What we've seen here tonight is that virtually every one of the concerns that the so-called parental rights proposal seeks to address is already addressed by district policy or state and federal law. Every concern, that is, except for many of those surrounding the forced outing of LGBTQ individuals. The proposed policies are an attempt to deny other human beings their rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What we're dealing with here is a pressure campaign originating from outside this district, conducted mainly by some people who are uncomfortable with the idea of Adam and Steve. Please see this proposal for what it is, a thinly veiled attempt by outside interests. This is not grassroots, it's AstroTurf. Every time this sort of policy is proposed, it's presented as a way to save the children. The thing is, it's never just about the children. Looking at Florida, where many of these policies have been pioneered, we can see that efforts to repress the LGBTQ population have only intensified. When I hear people talk about parental rights, I'm inclined to agree that they ought to be protected. The problem is, oftentimes, that those who talk the loudest about parental rights have children who have already become adults. Let me and other parents of current children have the same opportunity they did to watch our children grow up in the existing, supportive, and nourishing environment. And if I've been unable to affect your support for this policy with my words, just think about how many teachers' salaries could be paid by the legal bills we will undoubtedly incur fighting to protect a policy that does only harm to children. If the people of Glendora are really concerned about the children of the district, then there is only one choice, the choice to continue the wholesome environment that currently exists. Do not let yourselves be led down the road toward a destructive policy drafted by outside interests and national politics. Thank you.
Teresa Wainwright and Jennifer King.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Wainwright, and I'm the proud parent of a trans son at Goddard Middle School. People, children, and adults have a constitutional right not to have intimate facts about their lives disclosed without their consent. This includes their sexuality. Children do not give up their constitutional rights by enrolling in public school. Students have rights under federal law to keep certain information private and not to have that information revealed without their consent. Forced outing reveals information about trans students regardless if they consent or may suffer negative consequences at school or from home when that information is disclosed. Trans youth face a risk of abuse by adults who are supposed to care for them when they come out. Abuse and family rejection means trans youth are overrepresented in foster care, juvenile detention, and homeless shelters. The high rates of familiar rejection and abuse increase the risk of suicidality, substance abuse, and depression. Not every child can be their true selves at home without risking physical or emotional harm. For some trans youth, school may be one of the few places that they can actually be themselves. Trans youth thrive when they are affirmed in their gender identity, which includes being called by pronouns and names that reflect who they are. A supportive learning environment requires treating trans students with dignity and respect. And that includes calling the student by their name and pronouns that they want to use. Forced outing is not about parents' rights. They are designed to harm trans students. Parents have a fundamental right to raise their children, including making choices like whether they homeschool them or they enroll them in public school. Parents do not have a constitutional right to be told whether their child uses a name or pronoun that is not typically associated with their gender assigned at birth. Lawmakers know this. That's why these forced outing policies explicitly do not require parental notification when a student asks to be called by their middle name or a shortened version of their first name. Instead, these policies require schools to notify parents if someone at school thinks a student might be trans based on gender nonconformity or a request to use a different name or pronoun. Forced outing policies are meant to harm trans students. This policy requires parental notification at any time a student acts in a way that doesn't fit the school's view of how a boy or girl should act. These kinds of policies don't strengthen families, they just hurt kids, especially trans kids. Thank you for your time.
Jennifer King and then Sarah Barron.
Hi, good evening. I'm a parent of 4 kids here in Glendora, 2 currently at the high school, 1 former Tartan and 1 former Wildcat. So I am represented all over the district. And I waited to come and address the board about this because I wanted to really hear what the concerns were that the parents who are in favor of the policy have so I can have a clear understanding. And I also wanted to give the board time to review. And I have faith in those that have verbally stated that they're putting the students first. I know all of you are definitely looking at this from all the angles. I speak to you tonight as a parent of a child who has both mental health issues and also happens to be queer. I can tell you while these two issues are often married, they are not the same. My child was diagnosed as bipolar at 15, and I'm here to tell you that the services and resources the district currently have in place work. I know because they saved my child's life. I'm here to tell you that the counselors, school resource officers, shout out Officer Cordera, and administrators at GSS will stop at nothing to help your child, should they need it, and they will absolutely want you involved. My daughter suffered a mental health crisis at school, and the staff arranged transportation to a hospital, engaged a psychologist and school resource officer, and administrators contacted me immediately. I beat the ambulance to the hospital. But I suspect that's not what this is about for some. For some, this is a way to enlist teachers into forcibly outing students who may be questioning their sexual identities, equating questioning one's identity with a mental illness. These are not the same thing, and each situation is nuanced and individual. My child's mental health issues had nothing to do with her being queer, and forcing her to share her identity before she was ready could have exacerbated an already traumatic situation. And frankly, if you feel your kid wouldn't come to you if they were questioning their sexual identity, the answer isn't to deputize teachers, counselors, and administrators in your stead. The call is coming from inside your house. And you should consider having a transparent conversation with your child about their reasons for not coming to you. The proposed policy could open the district up to litigation, not to mention unfavorable publicity and restrictive policies which increase the challenges the district already has around attracting and retaining teaching talent. As I watched the meeting on 8/14, I saw a lot of the parents comment. I've seen a lot of those parents comment online. The same parents who say this is to protect children, that this is because they're worried about the children, are online saying that trans people are groomers, that they are specifically targeting and looking for access to children in order to groom them, to kidnap them, to steal brain chemicals. It's ridiculous. These are the same people who came here and told you this is about kids. It's not about kids. It's about outing kids, and it's about ostracizing kids, and it's about scaring kids into being straight.
Sarah Barron, and then Jennifer Kennedy.
Good evening. Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. DeGracia. Heard a lot of stuff tonight. I want to thank everybody for that really great presentation. It truly was comprehensive, informative. I feel we still have some work to do, but I feel we are super, super close. So that's my feeling on that. But I want to say, historically, expressions of gender dysphoria have not been a cause for concern of which parents needed notification, historically. It was generally looked upon with an attitude of watchful waiting for the child to mature and self-define. But no longer. In this current age of high internet use, online influencers have become masters at recruiting very young people to jump on the medical transitioning track. And the result has been a horrendous, worldwide epidemic of young people, mostly girls, ruining their health and their reproductive futures. This is what we are trying to avoid. Nothing more. We are not outing kids insofar as they are already out when they request to be treated as the gender of the opposite sex, of their birth sex. It is important for the board to understand when parents perceive a threat to their kids, they want the added protection of supportive school policy. The parental notification policy that we have proposed is nothing more than adding a few items to a list that already requires notification. GUSD has excellent policies regarding parental notification that have been effective and comprehensive up until about 5 years ago. Unfortunately, times have changed. The American culture has changed. Our policies are no longer adequate to truly protect our youth. Glendora needs to adopt a policy to deal with the new reality. Please. Thank you for your time.
Jennifer Kennedy, and then Michael Barron.
Good evening, Board.
My name's Jennifer Kennedy. I'm a licensed California attorney. My district is Pasadena, where they too, like so many districts, most districts in the state, have a parent secrecy policy embedded into their administrative regulations. Typically, the administrative regulation number is 5145.3. You can Google this with your district and find it. And I have Glendora's policy right here. Now, since I was here last, the total is now 7 school districts that have enacted a parent notification policy because they value honesty and transparency with parents. I was really thrilled to hear the repeating refrain of transparency and valuing partnerships with family and school. And that sounded wonderful because that's exactly what these policies are designed to do, which is communicate to parents critical information about their children. The thing is, and I love the fact, you are the only board so far who has had this very thorough discussion of policies that you have in place. However, there's a lot of legal terms of art that were thrown around, like harassment, discrimination, personal information, things that actually involve legal analysis. And I recommend that you all get some legal analysis about the constitutionality of parental notification policies, especially given what you know, that Chino Valley came out with the first one, and now they've been sued by Rob Bonta. I could answer questions on that if you have any questions about that. Here's the deal, though. You cannot do your fiduciary duty to your voters, your constituents, and the children you serve by basing it on 60-second sound bites, even 3-minute sound bites from people. You guys have a fiduciary duty to vet this extremely well, to seek legal advice and medical advice. And so instead of trying to advertise my legal analysis, I want to just ask you some questions that I think you need to think about and get answers from multiple sources. And they are legal, medical, and global. Legally, you need to hear from the legal sources about the constitutionality and the fact that children have no rights of privacy as against their parents with specific regard to gender identity. That's just how it is. There is no such law. That's what I keep saying. And Rob Bonta cannot say anything else because his lawsuit is full of AB 1266, which is no law that creates a right of privacy. So we'll move on from legal, but medically, you need to ask yourself, what do you know about the topic of transgenderism in adults or in children? What do you know about social transition versus medical? What do you know about the effects of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and the fact that they sterilize children? Do you believe children can consent to sterilization, etc.? Have you heard the testimonies of desisters and detransitioners? Have you seen the videos on YouTube where they say they just wish some adult had said no? I'd like you to ask these questions as you continue to develop this policy. Thank you.
Michael Barron, Anne Marie.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank all of you. I'm very impressed, and it was kind of reinforced. I really was excited to know how thorough our policies were, that your policy that the board has developed, because that's what I said on July 24th, the very first time I presented. I said, I bet most of these policy issues about parental notification are already in the policies of this school district, and I was proven right. So from the parents' perspective, what makes the current policy excellent is that when it comes to a student's poor academic performance, you notify the parents. An issue of student truancy, you notify the parents. A health issue, a drug issue, you notify the parents. Bullying, you report it, you notify the parents. But today's culture is no longer characterized solely by these issues. The issues that are now a concern are the saturating influence of TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, far-left ideology, and transgender activists, such as who presented here just a little while ago. This is why parental notification policy that we have proposed needs to be adopted. Our new policy clearly sets forth the requirements of Education Code 49602. Our new policy for kids 12 years and older, if a counselor has a reasonable belief that informing the parents creates a clear and present danger to the pupil, no notification to the parents is required. That is a concession to that other side, to opponents of our parental policy, relying on the good sense of counselors to make that call. Sending it forth, opponents to this policy have their fears. Proponents have their fears. You've heard of them. You've heard them tonight. You've heard them over the last 3 months. You've heard both sides. And I've said before, this issue before the board has no perfect solution. The proposed parental notification policy is ethical, is legal, and it's necessary given the culture change that we are seeing. I will assume that at the appropriate time tonight, one board member will move to agendize the proposed policy, and then another will second it. Remember, you're not voting to approve the policy, you're voting to agendize it. Tonight, you can act in accordance with the oath you took upon assuming your role as board trustee. You took an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution. That means supporting parental rights. And your next step is to agendize the proposed parental notification policy. So I asked that someone please, at the appropriate time, move to agendize this policy. Thank you.
Anne Marie, and then Desiree Nava.
Good evening, Board. Interesting that tonight the terms bullying, hatred, and harassment were brought up, along with kindness. Because I've recently been made aware of a couple websites that have been created with the sole purpose of targeting and doxing conservatives, who they've egregiously labeled far-right fascists. They label us in this hateful way for just wanting to protect our children. Their intent is clear. It is to dox those of us that they put on the website, which is the intention of putting out personal information to cause harm to us and our families. This is very much a threat to our safety. The very groups of people from the left who requested the anti-hate policy are part of the same group of people who created this website. I also have proof that they are connected to Antifa, the group that terrorizes conservatives and Christians. As you can see, I, along with other members of our Glendora community, are on this target list, and that includes you, Gary Clifford, Shauna Elias, Bob Kuhn, myself, and others. Here's a quote from a trusted source on Telegram regarding this chart. California communists, Antifa, LGBTQ+, have created a well-funded website to begin doxing far-right extremist school board protesters that include pictures, names, organizations, nonprofits, social media accounts, and more in hopes of ousting known fascists. This is the hate label they have assigned to us conservative parents and community members for just wanting to protect our children. How is this inclusive or uniting? It's not. It's only hateful and dividing, and there lies the irony. The ones who actually are the hateful ones are the ones who pushed for this anti-hate policy, while many of us have been the victims of their hate for far too long now. From this point forward, with this information you now have, what will you be doing to denounce the actual hate and to protect those of us on this target list? I'd like this to be entered into the public record for tonight's meeting. Whoever would like to take it. Is giggling at our speeches considered acceptable? Or we're going to ask everyone to leave? I'm just curious. What do you consider respectful? Snickering. Would you like to finish your comment? Either we all giggle or none of us giggle when we speak. I know our side has really bit our lip tonight through this whole last 2.5 hours. Please proceed.
Desiree Nava, May Lynn.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent DeGrazia. If a school student suffers a life-threatening concussion while playing soccer during a PE class, and the child expresses his feelings that he does not want his parents to find out, would it be lawful for the school to require its instructor to hide the event from the parents? Of course not. What if the child at the school suffers a sexual assault, or expresses suicidal thoughts, or expresses aggressive and threatening thoughts or behavior? Would it be acceptable not to inform the parents? No. These would be serious medical conditions to which parents have a legal and federal constitutional right to be informed of and to direct decisions on medical treatment. A parent's rights to make decisions concerning the care, custody, control, and medical care of their children is one of the oldest of the fundamental liberty interests that Americans enjoy. However, if a school student expresses words or actions during class that may be the first visible sign that the child is dealing with gender incongruity or possibly gender dysmorphia, conditions that may or may not progress into significant adverse, lifelong social, emotional health consequences, would it be lawful for the school to require teachers to hide the events from the parents? What I have just read is directly from the law school filed by attorney representing 2 teachers at the Escondido Union School District, who were directed by school policy to keep secrets from parents. The point in sharing this with you is that GUSD policy already calls for the notification of parents of many events and issues that affect students. Why then, in the case of a child expressing behavior or gender incongruity or possibly gender dysmorphia, has this board decided to do just the opposite of what it has already done and notify the parents? As a mother, to be denied the knowledge that my daughter was struggling with anything, to deny me the ability to be there emotionally or physically, to support my child through whatever she is feeling and going through, would be an absolute failure on the system. Listening to your guys' presentation today actually refilled my balloon. I came here about a month ago and listened to a meeting, and I was genuinely concerned. Oh, thank you.
May Lynn, and then Cesar. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how to say your middle name, Alvarado.
Esteemed members of Glendora Unified School District Board members, my name is May Lynn. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a student and an advocate for Mount San Antonio's Pride Center, and I'm here to plead for the safety of LGBTQ youth. One's sexual and gender identity is personal and must be kept confidential for the safety and well-being of the person, especially when that person is of marginalized identity and young and vulnerable. If we lived in an accepting society, we wouldn't need this conversation. However, according to a 2022 article from the Trevor Project, overall 28% of LGBTQ youth reported experiencing homelessness or housing instability at some point in their lives. 58% of youth who reported past housing instability and 62% of youth who were currently homeless reported having seriously considered suicide in the last year. Compared that to 35% of youth who had not experienced housing instability. According to a 2023 spring policy brief from the National Network, family rejection seems to be the most common cause of homelessness for LGBTQ plus youth. Rejected by the families because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. LGBTQ plus youth are often forced to leave their homes. From a 2021 article from the Trevor Project, LGBTQ youth are not inherently prone to suicide risk because of their sexual orientation or gender identity, but rather placed at higher risk because they are mistreated and stigmatized in society. LGBTQ youth are more than 4 times as likely to attempt suicide than their peers. The Trevor Project estimates more than 1.8 million LGBTQ youth ages 13 to 24 seriously consider suicide in each year in the US, and at least 1 attempts suicide every 45 seconds. That's 4 attempted suicides in the 3 minutes I'm allotted. Being trans is not a crime. To out queer kids to their parents violates the students' right to privacy and inflicts violence and trauma upon them. A vote to out trans youth is a vote adding to the homelessness and death of queer youth. I invite the board not to raise the statistics of queer homelessness and deaths. Thank you.
Cesar and then July. Can you do me a favor and tell me how to pronounce your whole name?
Yes, that's Cesar Tlatuani Alvarado.
Thank you.
Piali Kualitleotlak Newanantoka Cesar Tlatuani Alvarado. Hello, good evening. My name is Cesar Tlatuani Alvarado. Esteemed members of the Glendora Unified School District, allow me to introduce myself. I am the student trustee of Mount San Antonio College, and I represent the largest community college in the state of California, of a population of 30 to 60,000 credit, non-credit, in-person, and online students. Many of them former students of the Glendora Unified School District. I ran and won my campaign on being a proud bisexual and indigenous two-spirit person. Although I sit on the board of trustees at Mount SAC, I'm here representing myself, queer youth, and the LGBTQIA+ community. In the past year alone, there have been over 500 pieces of anti-LGBTQIA+ legislation across the nation, most of them attacking the trans community. Ladies, gentlemen, and people not in the binary, we are in the midst of a civil rights movement. Just like the civil rights movements of the women suffragettes, the Black civil rights movements, we have taken inspiration and demanded equal treatment and our seat at the table. Outing people is abuse, and outing children is child abuse. I stand firmly against child abuse, especially targeting some of the most vulnerable children in our nation, queer children. I've spoken to some of the alumni of the Glendora Unified School District on educators being openly racist, homophobic, and transphobic. I would love to sit down with each of you, the members of the Glendora Unified School District, to protect our most vulnerable in our society and create intersectional solutions to intersectional problems. Tlaxacomatli, Kualitleotlak. Thank you and good evening.
July and then Mary Sol Sanchez.
Hi, I'm queer. I graduated high school 2020, so that may have been some time. It's still very fresh in my mind. And I just want to say that growing up queer was very hard, and high school was some of the worst years of my life, if I'm being completely honest. And I can't imagine how much worse it would have been if I had a school that had forced me to come out to my parents before I was ready. Coming out is extremely delicate. It's like disarming a bomb. And for every child, that should be on their own terms. They shouldn't have somebody come forcing them to blow up before they're ready. Outing someone against their will is honestly one of the cruelest and most wretched things you can do to someone in the LGBTQ community. I would ask any of you, what would you do if someone had just told a secret that was so dear to you, that was felt like the most vulnerable part of you before you were ever ready to share it to somebody? How would that make you feel? And now imagine if you were 13 or 12 or even younger, and you don't know if your parents will still love you if they found out this secret about you. I didn't know if my mom or dad would still want me to live with them if they found out I was gay or non-binary. I'm extremely so blessed and fortunate that they did, and they still do want me, and that they support me through and through. But I know the reality is not every child has that. There are people in this world who have their hearts tainted by fear and hate. They let conservatives who only seek the best interest of those at the top, other than us at the bottom, sway what they want to fight for. What I want to fight for is what I know. And I know that being trans is not a mental illness. It's not a sickness, and you can't spread it to other people. I'm not a groomer. I don't want to do anything with your kids. All I want to see with the kids of Glendora Unified School District and all the children in the San Gabriel Valley and California and this continent is to see them safe and happy, and see that they come out to their parents on their own terms when they are ready. Thank you for your time.
Marisol Sanchez.
Hello, good evening. I just want to put it out there, like, as a trans feminine person, I'm not here to groom your child. I'm not here to speak against your right to be involved with your children. So I just want to put that out there. But I'm here to speak here tonight to persuade you guys to please don't adopt the policy of outing LGBTQ students like in Chino Valley. Like I said, as a trans feminine person who, actually, let me rephrase this. As a trans feminine person who came out to my parents as an adult, it was hard enough. And I believe it's harder on children to have that conversation with their parents. This policy has the potential to make it unsafe for them to live with their own families. Mental illness like depression and abuse will increase if a child doesn't have parents that are understanding of what it means to fall under the LGBTQ umbrella. We can't assume that every child has parents that will accept them for being trans or non-binary. I know for a fact that if I had realized I was trans as a kid, I would have been beaten by my dad and criticized for not understanding myself, which is ironic because that's exactly what I am doing and what kids are doing, by exploring gender and their sexuality. It's a normal human thing to do because LGBTQ people have existed for centuries. A book by Leslie Feinberg called Transgender Warriors has helped me realize that we have existed for thousands of years. We're not some new trend that came about 40 or however many years ago. The problem is that attempts have been made to erase us from history. I will not allow that to happen with this new policy that is being considered. This year has been really bad for trans youth and adults because other states in this country have introduced more than 100 transphobic laws just this year alone. Now the right wing is trying to bring their hateful agenda here in California. Myself and many other people won't allow that to happen. The LGBTQ community has a right to exist, do the right thing, and throw this parental policy in the trash where it belongs. Thank you.
Those are all the comment cards that I have for this evening. We now move on to oral reports and comments from members of the Board of Education. Mr. Clifford?
Madam President, thank you. And thank you, everyone, again, staff, for your presentation to us, for people that were for and against whatever policy decisions that we have to make tonight. I so much appreciate what you've done. I've taken notes about what you've said, and certainly as a policy and decision maker in this district, certainly have an opportunity to make a decision as a result of that. I want to say that I agree with the provisions of what everyone said tonight. I also am a person and a legislator who believes in local control and local government, and I really believe in the parental right policy and what this district does and what a policy will do to help streamline that process and make it easier, at least for me to understand and for people to understand that are implementing it in our school district. So at the appropriate time tonight, when everyone's done with their comments and when before we move on to the next item, I will ask my associates to consider a motion to put the parental rights policy on the agenda for a vote, and that'll require a second, and then we will hear evidence and testimony on the issue, and then put it to bed once and for all in this community. If it gets a second, great, we'll have that discussion, and if it doesn't, I understand that too. But I do want to say that I have done a lot of homework on the issue, certainly have listened to hundreds of comments as it relates to this topic. I have experience as a legislator in this community. I believe I'm doing the right thing for this community in bringing this propose parental rights policy to our organization for consideration and for a vote. But I also want to opine on the fact that I think our staff and our superintendent did a phenomenal job identifying what we currently do. And I'm blessed that our community takes the parental right issue to the highest level that you can with our current actions that we do. I have nothing further to say on the issue. We've done a lot of things this week, but I'm going to yield that time to my associates. And then when everyone's done speaking, I would like to come back at least for the motion to see if it will get a second, and then move on to the next issue. Thank you, Madam President, and thank you everyone tonight.
I'm just a little unsure about how to proceed, if we should just move ahead with your motion, address that and continue, or what the appropriate.
I have no trouble with making a motion, Madam President. I'd like to hear the comments, but I have no trouble with.
I mean, our comments will all proceed. I'll make sure of that, certainly. I just don't, I procedurally, this is a.
I will make it easy for you,
Go ahead.
Madam President. I will make a motion to have a parental rights policy brought to the Glendora Unified School District Board at our next agendized meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
But, so I think there needs to be, I mean, so where are we with a parental rights notification? So that was my next question was, we've studied, we've heard, okay, we hear the same thing over and over again, right? So we hear what's being said. We absolutely want to do 100% of what's right for our kids in our community, right? So what are we doing? What parental rights notification are we bringing forward? Who's putting that together? What are our next steps if we are going to do something? We have a lot of policies. We're doing a really good job of working with kids and working with parents and doing the things that we're supposed to do to help kids. So what is our next steps, I guess, is what I would like to find out.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez, for making the second so that we can open up this part of the conversation. Procedurally, we had to have that in order to have this conversation. And I will reiterate those comments that I'm unsure of which parental policy you are bringing forward for approval or for agendizing for next meeting.
For lack of an identifier other than what I received, and I think the board received, we received a version of our parental policy that had specific, I don't have it in front of me, it was the last one that we received, and I think we were going to give that
from a member of the community or from our internal staff?
It was from, I don't think we received anything from our internal staff yet.
Okay.
I received it from a member of our community, and I think it should be presented, that particular policy should be presented to our staff, and if our staff thinks there needs to be changes made, then they look at that policy, they make the appropriate changes they think they need, and they present it to us. After our legal team and everybody looks at it. But I think that, I'm willing to supply, I believe that we were all copied on that email, but I'm willing to supply that email to the superintendent. That's the policy that I'm speaking of. It's not the Chino Valley policy, or it's not one of the policies that are out there. It was a new policy that dealt with some of the issues that those policies didn't deal with or something. But I would say, my motion just includes staff presenting one to us, of which we received.
So I think
via
that's
email.
two different requests. It's either A, voting on or agendizing the one that was presented to us, or B, asking staff to create something.
I'm fine with the one that was presented to us.
Okay.
I believe, the one that was presented to us, whatever, I mean, we have to we have to look at it as a group. We have to. We have to study it. I think staff has to look at it. Everybody's got to look at it to see what the fit is. And whatever, we don't know what will be born out of that.
I agree.
Because it could be something that we create. That's our job to create policy. So it would be something that I think we would have to look at and we would study. To, who knows, we could massage a document and it could look a lot like what we already have in place. So just, we have to have the conversation. I feel like we've heard a lot. We've heard a lot. We haven't had a chance to talk. We haven't had a chance to sit with a document. We haven't had a chance to really study. I mean, right, there's a lot of things going on in school. So, but we wanted to, we got our numbers. We got what staff, which again is excellent. We know our people are doing a great job with our students. So let's look at it and see what's born out of that when we get finished looking at the policy.
I think, I don't know if this is the same thing, but for me, that policy that was emailed to us by a community member is not something that I would consider putting on the agenda, but I am willing to sit down, have the conversation about potentially creating a policy that brings together all the policies that we discussed and just brings it together in a concise document. But the agenda as it's written, the policy as it's written, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable putting it on the agenda.
Yeah, I have really struggled with this. It is not black and white. There is so much gray. I cannot support the parent notification policy either, Mrs. Garcia. And the reason is the timeline. As we talked to Dr. Prince, the counselor's job, their goal is to get the student to talk to their parents. But they should not be forced to do it within 3 days or 5 days. There cannot be a timeline. So I feel like we have a good policy in place, that we have the counselors, we have the student support specialists who are working with this. That is my 2 cents.
My vote on on agendizing the policy that was presented to us is also no. But I do recognize and have listened very closely to everybody who has come and spoken with us and sent us many, many emails with their personal thoughts, their personal stories, what this policy means to them in many different ways. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to procedurally ask for the vote on this and then continue with my motion.
I just have one point of order to ask you.
Okay.
I don't think we have to vote to put something on the agenda. I thought you just needed a motion and a second to get it on the agenda. The appropriate thing when it's presented is if you don't like it, then you vote no on it. But my intent was to bring a document in front of us that we could have a discussion on. And for instance, if one of the board members say, hey, I don't like 3 days, I want an indefinite amount of time, then you would make that change to the policy, and then it may or may not make somebody vote for it. But I'm not 100% sure that unanimously we have to vote on an agenda item. I think that if you have a motion and you have a second, it could be agendized.
Okay.
And then if you don't like the outcome of it, then you have an opportunity to vote. That's at least how I believe the agendizing process goes.
I think you may be correct. I do think you may be correct. I wonder if there is procedurally, you all will forgive us, this is something that's happening in real time. If then somebody else were to make a motion for a similar but different agenda item.
I'm sure you could do that if you wanted to. I think it's my opinion that the easy parliamentary thing to do is You either get something on the agenda or you don't, and then once it's on the agenda, you make the appropriate. You reveal the document or the process. You make whatever changes or have the discussion, and then it either fails or it passes. So I mean that's. Tonight was a night where we were gaining information, listening to the community, and then making a decision what to do next. My motion was clearly bring forth a policy so we can have a discussion, and if it gets second, you can rescind a second. If you just say, no, that sounds like a good idea. I'm not sure that requires a vote. That's all I'm saying.
I think you may be correct.
And then, I mean, if you want to have another agenda item to undo that, I mean, you
No,
won't
I want
need
to
it.
undo it, but
You
I
won't
also,
need it.
so if we have to wait till the following meeting for me to make a motion to then ask staff to come back, I'm trying to save us a little bit of time, actually, is what I'm doing. Because it's just gonna keep kicking it down the road, meeting by meeting, because we can't vote on new business in the same meeting that we bring it up. Does that make sense? So if you've made this motion tonight to bring forward a specific policy, and by reading the room, that policy is not gonna pass as written, would you like to move forward that way, or would you consider rescinding your motion and asking for something that policy can go? I'm just having this is a transparent conversation, folks.
No, it's a good question, and I'm okay with having it on the agenda. I'm also okay with you're going to get a lot of time to see that, and then making changes with it, coming back, and it's not the first time I voted on something, and if it comes back where it passes 4-1 to not do it, then we go on to the next item. I'm just saying that process starts the process of either having a policy or continuing what we're doing, depending on the support of the board. It's a simple process, and so that document will come to us. And what could happen, Madam President, is we could have that document. That's fine, and because there's plenty of time to do this, staff can say, hey, you asked for this document. Here's a document that we propose too. They can do that. There's nothing wrong or disingenuous with that. But we need to have an open dialogue on it. I think that's the most appropriate thing. And now that we've heard from everyone for several weeks and multiple emails, I think we have the gist of the community, and I think that we have the gist of the board. So I think that it would be my prediction that we're going to get this policy, that policy will probably be amended over either that night or a series of nights, and at some point in time we'll end up with a document that gets a majority of the support, or we'll end up where we are today, which is where we're doing basically kind of the same thing. But there's more latitude in it. And I do agree with you that, I'm willing to stipulate on time if time's an issue. I think that's a good point. If there's a period of time that's an issue. But I think that we need to start with some document somewhere. And I think that was the best one I saw out of, I think, 3 that were presented to us via email.
Okay, in the interest of moving the meeting forward, I'm going to take your motion to agendize the document that was sent to us from a community member. Mr. Lopez, would you like to keep your second?
Yes, right now I do.
Okay, then please, staff, agendize discussion on that most recent email. And Mr. Clifford, I'd ask you to please send which version you are specifically talking to the group at large.
I will do that either tonight or tomorrow.
Okay. Do you have any other board member comments?
I have several, but I'll yield to the group tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Garcia.
Okay. I want our community to know that for me, this issue is, as Mrs. Merkley stated, it's not black or white. There is a gray area, as we have heard tonight. I hope this presentation highlights the fact that GUSD is committed to working with our families and to ensure that all of our students are thriving. I am happy to see that we have procedures and protocols that protect the rights of parents to be involved in every aspect of their students' education and well-being. I want to clarify that the issue for me has never been whether or not I support parental rights. I do. I'm a parent. I have 3 children, and I 100% want to be able to support them in any and all challenges that they may face. The issue I had with the policy is that I felt the need for a parental notification policy needed to be established before we rush to adopt a policy based out of fear, misguided information, and singles out our LGBTQ youth. I appreciate all of the work the team put into preparing this presentation. It gives us a lot to go forward with. All of the public feedback, comments, emails are all crucial to this conversation. I feel confident that as a district, we are on the right path. We are assessing emergencies dutifully, with the student safety as a top priority. We are engaging our parents or families as quick as possible. We are respecting the privacy of our students, and we are ensuring that our students have the resources and support that they need to navigate any situation they may be faced with. That, to me, encompasses the responsibility of this body. When it comes to the concerns at hand, I appreciate everyone who has emailed me with their concerns, everyone who has come to give public comment. I want to thank our administrators and teachers for all that they do to provide a safe and welcoming learning environment so that our students can learn and thrive. Lastly, I want to address our students. I know this is a hard time, especially for our LGBTQ youth. Have no doubt that we at GUSD are here for you. We are here to support you. Everyone in this room and watching from home wants you to thrive. There is no question about that. We may have some disagreements on how we get to that, but I am 100% certain that we all care and want to do everything in our ability to ensure your safety and that you have what you need to thrive. We will come to an agreement, and your safety will be our guiding principle. Thank you.
Again, I'd like to thank everybody for being here and for making their comments on either side. And I can say, we will find the balance. We will find the fit. We will see how it works. We have not had the discussion, so we need to really look at it. We really need to look at what we're doing and get things in order for our students and our family. 100% student-centered. Always have been. That will never change in my mind, no matter whether it was at Glendora or whether it is where I am now. Absolutely, do I agree with Ms. Garcia and what she said and a lot of what she said? Absolutely. We do have to, I'm going to say the same things over again I've been saying for weeks, so I won't go on very much longer. We need to find something that fits. Maybe in the end, we're not going to find that, and we go on with the status quo with what we have. But we want to look at it and see what we can make work.
Mrs. Markley?
Well, I think I pretty much shared how I feel about this. I have really struggled with this, gone back and forth, trying to understand. I'm not sure that I will ever understand. No, I know I will never understand what a trans person is going through or LGBTQ. I will not understand. But that doesn't mean I can't love and accept. And I do. I want them to be safe. I worry about the parents who are pushing this. Somehow I think that if your child is trans and everybody else knows and you don't, is there a problem with that? I'm stepping out here. But I'm thinking if they're gay or lesbian, you might not know that. But if they're trans, I just can't imagine a parent. They either have their head in the sand or there's some kind of relationship issue with their child. They're not tuned in with that child. That is where I'm coming from. But I am willing to talk and to learn and to listen. People have emailed me because I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I believe in the family, but I believe in all the family, and that we have to love these students and we have to be so careful of them. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Markley. I'm pulling up something here on my phone real quick so that I'm correct. I want to thank my colleagues, thank staff again, sincerely appreciate all the time, effort, and energy that you put into this thorough presentation. I want to thank the community for their thoughts and their feedback on this issue. My colleagues have done a tremendous job summarizing our meeting this evening, so I'm going to flip the script a little bit and say that I had the esteemed privilege of attending the LA County Teacher of the Year banquet on Friday, just this past Friday. And for those of you who don't remember or didn't know, Mrs. Ria Kubota was Glendora Unified School District's Teacher of the Year. Ria teaches 2 classes at each middle school, strings and orchestra at GMS and at Goddard Middle School and Sandburg Middle School for 80% of her time this year. Her additional 20%, she is our VAPA coordinator, so like a teacher on special assignment. And I knew Ria from afar as a teacher in my children's school over time and at all the district music performances. But really had the pleasure of spending several hours with her this Friday and getting to know her as a person. And boy, did we do a great job in picking Mrs. Kubota as our Teacher of the Year this year. Not only is she a tremendous musician, but her enthusiasm for continuous improvement in all aspects of her own life and all of her colleagues' lives, and most importantly, all of her students' lives, is impressive. The anecdotal stories that I heard her telling all of us as we were driving down to Universal City on Friday afternoon and fighting the traffic on the way back, and the way that she engages her students and teaches them life lessons on how to make good decisions and how to be a leader and how to the very lovely story. I won't tell on the teacher that she told the story about, but a teacher was learning how to play a string instrument and came into Mrs. Kubota's after school tutorial, let's call it, and she had some of her students come over and teach their, like, let's say, science teacher how to move forward, and the empowerment that gave those students on their own teacher being a lifelong learner and not being able to get it right the first time was truly amazing. So I hope that somebody is out there listening to this tonight, and when she sees or they see Mrs. Kubota, that you thank her, because she really is one of Glendora's absolute best and deserves all the recognition and praise that she got on Friday at the Teacher of the Year banquet. I think that's a pretty good place for me to stop. So thank you all very much. Okay, I'm not going to turn it off. I'm not going anywhere. Okay, here we go. Next, Dr. DeGrazia, Superintendent Report.
Thank you. In brief, I did want to mention Mrs. Kubota as well, Outstanding Teacher of the Year recognition for her on Friday. And also for Riley Anderson, Glendora High School student, 12th grade. She's a student athlete, girls basketball. She's being recognized tonight as a CIF Champion of Character. That is a prestigious award to receive. Mrs. Norrell is at that event, and that's why she wasn't able to be with us this evening, because she's attending on Riley's behalf. And Riley's characters really shine through in addition to her outstanding work on the basketball court. Of course, she is one of the 1,000-point scorers. There's been only a few of those in girls basketball history. She's a senior this year. We had a great wellness week a couple weeks ago. We want to congratulate the basket winners at each site and wanted to announce their names. At Cullen, Lily Garcia in 3rd grade, La Fetra, Camilla Kozel in 2nd grade, Sellers, Henry Ojeda in 4th, Stanton, Rain Shields in 4th, Sutherland, Noel Conche in 5th, at Goddard, April Moore in 8th, at Sandburg, Elena Camacho in 8th, Glendora High School, Grace Fawn, and best name for last, Wickham High School, Ace Gray in 12th grade. We would also like to thank the more than 400 residents who participated in a recent bond interest survey by a third-party consultant to determine the Glendora Unified community level of interest for a future bond measure and areas of possible future prioritization for the district. The consultant will come to present results at one of our upcoming October meetings. We are also excited to announce that GTA has ratified their tentative agreement with the district. Congratulations on a successful agreement to all parties. That's huge. Yes, yeah, we should clap for that. Yes, next steps will be to bring the agreement to the board for their approval and go through all of the guidelines of the LA County Office of Education in regards to AB 1200 financial certification for the agreement. We look forward to that. MOCA is also coming soon. It's happening next month for the first time in 4 years. Both junior highs from Moka Higashi will be coming. Moka Higashi Junior High School and Nakamura Junior High School will be visiting us from the 27th of October to November 1st. And they have a number of activities at the site, here, the district, and in the community. So as you see them within the next month, please welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to the arrival of our MOCA, especially at Halloween. Boy, do they love to be scared. Okay, we're gonna move right along to our discussion action items. Item 5.1, approval of the authorization for Los Angeles County Superintendent of Schools to make appropriate transfers necessary to meet obligations at year-end closing in the following manner. 1, between major objects of expenditures. 2, from unassigned fund balances, if any. And 3, from committed fund balances. And 4, from assigned fund balances as presented. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that.
This is very procedural and standard, but maybe you want to just give a one sentence summary, please.
You actually said it really well with talking about the 4 different points that are there that that give us that opportunity for the county superintendent to be able to do that authorization. And so really what we're asking the board tonight is for your support so that we can make those transfers happen.
Any questions or additional comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5.2, recommend the Board of Education adopt Resolution 23-24-10 in regards to supporting National Bullying Prevention Month as October 2023. May I have a motion?
I
So
motion.
moved.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to go ahead and read this short resolution. Whereas National Bullying Prevention Month was founded in 2006 by Pacers National Bullying Prevention Center to raise awareness about bullying. And whereas bullying is an aggressive use of power, targeting another person or group of people with repeated, unwanted words or actions, hurting them emotionally or physically, often leaving devastating long-term effects like loss of self-esteem, increased anxiety, depression, lower academic achievement, dropping out of school or suicide, and whereas the Glendora Unified School District recognizes that no one deserves to be bullied and all students deserve to be safe in school, online, and in the community, and that bullying is not acceptable. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Glendora Unified School District does hereby support National Bullying Prevention Month and the proclamation of October 2023 as National Bullying Prevention Month in the district. We encourage students, staff, and community to support others who have been hurt or harmed, treating others with kindness, being more accepting of people's differences, and helping to include those who are left out. We're now going to move on to the consent items. The Board of Education may consider agenda consent items as a whole or as individual divisions. Any item may be removed by a member of the board for discussion and possible actions. May I have a motion?
I move that we approve them all.
Wait a minute. Did anybody want to pull anything?
Madam President,
Sorry.
I would like to have a discussion on item 10-1.
Okay.
I move that we approve all those except item 10-1.
Do I have a second?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All items except for 10.1 have been approved. Item 10.1, personnel services consent items. Approve/ratify the certificated personnel employments, retirements, resignations, and leaves. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Clifford, your comments.
My comments, Madam President, were I am not, I'm not satisfied that I have enough information to vote to hire substitute teachers without having more information other than their name and I don't have any backup with that, or I've asked for the process of how we hire substitute teachers. I deem that as to be a very important position because I think substitute teachers act in the stead of our permanent teachers, and sometimes they are long-term substitute teachers, which could be for a period of time for a year. Or I don't think they go longer than the school year, but I think they can go for a period of an entire school year. And I think I asked for information on the process, and I was told that they're going to get some information. And I would like to propose somehow that substitute teachers are at least interviewed similar to how you interview a teacher, rather than just have it be a internet exchange. And like I said, I don't know enough about it, but I know that I don't have enough information on that particular issue personally to make that decision. And once that was brought to my attention, I think like last month. So I just want to be consistent with what I did last time, not having any further information. And there's 4 names on here. So I can approve all of 10.1 with the exception of the certificated personnel, or you guys can vote if there's no one else that shares that assessment that I have.
Would you like some information from staff on this topic right now?
I think I asked staff if there were any changes made, and staff responded to me that there were not,
Okay.
that they're working on some assessments and changes to the process. But unless there's any more information than that, I'm not prepared to vote in the affirmative.
So I have a question then about
Okay.
that. So when somebody applies to be a sub, they put down a list of references?
They do put down references, they fill out an application, but there is not currently an interview protocol in place. That is one of the things that we could certainly work on. And as I shared with Mr. Clifford, we're currently working on a formalized evaluation process. And so if a teacher, if an administrator who has a sub in place has concerns or praises, there'll be a formal process that they'll be able to provide that feedback. That feedback could then be provided to the substitute to encourage them in positive ways, and also for the district should we're having an issue or a concern with the substitute that we could use as documentation to not have them employed anymore.
So then for a substitute teacher, before they get hired, references are checked on those?
They are not. It's after the fact. Like what he just explained to you is a process that happens after they've already subbed. All I'm asking is that it's a teaching position. It's oh,
Yeah,
go
no,
ahead.
we do receive their reference letters, and those references are cross-referenced and checked with those people to confirm, yes, before they work, yes.
And I have a question. They have background check?
Yes, background
So
check.
everything
They
except-
They have to hold at least an emergency credential to at least allow them for 30 days to work for a teacher, 30 days at a time or more. I think that's been expanded to 60 days right now. Mrs. Merkley's one of our former substitute teachers that's on the dais. She could speak to it as well. So there's paperwork processes, certainly the application, letters of reference, and the reference checks tied to those letters. Character reference checks, if we know, obviously, of individuals ourselves, we do those things as well in our due diligence in regards to that. And we ensure that someone follows the process. We can look at certainly a type of interview or interviews. Often districts will do group interviews of possible substitutes to help with the efficiency of time. But that's definitely a possibility. I know that's one of the things Mr. Osborne is looking at in terms of the interviews.
So the only difference, I'm sorry, the only difference is that there isn't an official, like, person-to-person interview, but everything else is the same.
There's some additional trainings that we've done in the past as far as bringing an administrator, and Mrs. Merkley may remember this, bringing an administrator to assist with the training of our substitutes. If a substitute at any time is not following the processes, not completing the paperwork, not consistent with our other substitutes, they are at-will employees. We have every right not to work an employee a single day for us, or terminate their employment, either way.
And I believe that subs are invited to professional development day, because I know I was invited, and not paid, but invited, and I did attend at least one.
Thank you. If you could show me one of those packages where somebody applies, we get recommendation letters, we have some kind of a document that shows we check those references and they checked out okay. I just feel strongly that someone who's going to be in one of our classrooms has some kind of interview with someone, just some talk before we put them in a classroom. That's all. It's just a simple request. And if that's not possible, I get it too. I'm just one of five. But to me, that's a reasonable request for someone who's going to be part of our learning organization, reaching our goals and objectives and all the other things.
I think it's more than reasonable, something we could work on.
I don't think any of us would disagree that that's would be a benefit to add to the process. As it relates to item 10.1, we have a motion. We have a second somewhere. All those in favor of approve/ratify the certificated personnel employments, retirements, resignations, and leaves, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Clifford. Okay, I think we can all agree that that's something that we'd like to work on moving forward, but I do recognize after spending the day with Mrs. Kubota how important having a deep bench of substitutes are, so I'm not going to impede that process right now. Okay, that brings us to adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Wow, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 9:47. Thank you all very much.